Welcome to our next episode in our State of the City address. Today is going to be a little shorter, but still we have Mayor Heidemann and City Manager Scott Campbell with us. We're talking broadband today. And I cannot tell you how many times I've heard my internet speeds are slow, starting all the way back for probably 9-10 years ago at this point. And as it turns out, internet speeds were slow. We had some people in the neighborhood, and I think I was one of the blessed ones. I never had below 300 meg service. But as we started through this process with Connected Nation, we learned that there were parts of not only Corinth, but Shady Shores and Hickory Creek that were barely getting to 5. And so not to rehash the whole process that we went through, but we did work with Connected Nation. It was a major part of our regional cooperation. We could not have done it without the help of the other two cities. When we partnered together with the technology committee, man, I think Mayor Heidemann, that's been 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
And then we set ourselves a goal, and I'll never forget, Mayor Heidemann, we were sitting in that Connected Nation meeting with our tech board, and it was mentioned, we should be shooting to be a gigabit city. And I think that spurred on some laughter at the time, because 2 years ago, they said we would be lucky to have 100 gigabyte going to most homes in the 3 cities. But 100 gigabyte was definitely more than what we were getting at that time. But we've got some great news, right? So we are actually in partnership with Pavlov Media. We have brought competition into the Lake Cities for gigabit service. And not only is it gigabit, but it's symmetrical, which means your download speed and your upload speed is going to be gigabit, and it's scalable to 10 gig. So Mayor Heidemann, you want to go through some of that process and some of the good news?
Thank you. When we were doing the STAR evaluation and going through the strategic plan, one of the things that our citizens of Corinth said is that we had poor internet service, and if there was one thing that if we could concentrate on was, could you improve that service to our citizens? And so we took that as a challenge, and quite honestly, as Scott had just mentioned, we got involved in a cooperative type effort here, which led us down the path of soliciting Pavlov to do it. And through this process, we learned a lot. We listened to the citizens as what their needs were. And what else happened was we actually went outside of the geographical area and got help from our COG board. That's North Central Texas Council of Government, because they were looking at that to how can we help other communities in North Texas here to get internet service. And so through this, we established a Broadband committee where we had council and citizens involved in developing this process. And I think they touched all the different bases of the needs of the citizen. And I think what you're seeing now is we're in the final stage or the final phase of development of this project. And sometime this summer, we're all going to be able to sit and be back and look at this project, and we can say now we are a gigabyte city. And this, again, has a lot of different ramifications. Some of that, as we talked earlier in this state of the city, is that attracting new businesses here. One of the things that they all were looking at is what kind of internet service do you have and who is your provider? Well, now we have something to brag about. And I think this is, again, some of the reasons why people are looking to come to Corinth to develop and to bring their business and to want to come here and live here because of the quality of life that we're trying to provide for our citizens.
And I think some important things to go back and to hit on, Mayor Heidemann, is when we started this process, not only was it a major part of what brought 3 or 4 of the lake cities together, is we worked very closely with each other through this, but that the internet providers had no interest in increasing speeds or improving infrastructure. And so we went to them first, we got a big fat no, and then we started working with Connected Nation. We ran across Pavlov Media. And what ultimately has happened is we've ended up with more now than one other competition in town, right? So there's two or three other services that have come into town to try to compete with Pavlov in the realm of Gigabit City. So moral of the story is before you go signing any ISP contracts with Charter, like sometimes they'll have you sign up for a year or two, I would recommend giving it a bit because Pavlov will be up and running. There should be much more options within the next year. And just like in our previous podcast episodes, we have a data hub available so you can pull up your own address and find out where you are at in this process. There's two ways to get to that. The first is cityofcorinth.com/data hub. There'll be a link in the description below. And also lakecitiesbroadband.com is a single source information website where you can go and find out where we're at in the process. But we're going to pull it back over to Mr. Campbell. Do we have any updates where we're at in the process when we might think that all of Corinth is going to have access to gigabit service?
Absolutely. The project is continuing. We have had a few weather delays and
Sure.
some supply issue delays that have affected a lot of projects in a lot of cities. But work is continuing. So the dates have changed a little bit in terms of what we first anticipated when folks might be able to actually make a connection. And so the installation of the main fiber ring has to be completed, and that work is continuing. Crews are currently working in the woods at Oakmont along FM 2181 and along Shady Shores. And so once the main ring is actually completed, residents will be able to sign up for service at that point. And so we anticipate that the ring hopefully will be completed by mid-May, and that's when connections could start being made.
By mid-May of 2023,
That's
so this
correct.
year.
Yes, sir.
My guess is between Pavlov and the city, there's going to be a substantial amount of advertisement.
Yes, sir.
So it's going to be difficult to accidentally miss when your house is going to be available to have
Right.
gigabit service.
Mhm.
All right, Mr. Campbell. So mid-May, the fiber
sir.
ring should be done. That's when that kind of last mile effort's going to happen between the fiber ring and the residents' homes.
That's correct.
Right. So we need a place to go to find out where are we at in this process. And good news for everybody at lakecitiesbroadband.com. You'll be able to pull up your own address and find out where you're at in the process. And also, when service is available, there will be a link there where you can sign on to internet service with Pavlov straight from that link. Be sure to visit the link regularly because there will be updated information on where you can go to get internet service with Pavlov Media. And with that, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this episode. Please stay tuned because we have a lot of new and fun stuff to talk about in our next installment of The State of the City.